All right, we're going to call the meeting to order at 10:01. I can confirm that all board members are in attendance. Amy Papish is attending in person. We have John Garrity and Katie Burbick attending via Zoom. So can I please get an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, agenda for today has been approved. Can I please get an approval for the minutes from July 10th, 2025?
So moved.
And a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Approval of the minutes from July 10th of 2025. We'll move on to item number 2, which is public comments and attendance of guest participants. If we would once again start with Magistrate Riley, and please introduce yourself for the public.
Okay. Tammy Riley, I'm magistrate with Probate Court.
Thank you.
Therese Soul, Chief Deputy Clerk.
Thank you.
Kaylee Lafferty, Fiscal Officer.
Aaron DeBoard, Court Manager.
Thank you.
Stephanie Green Day, Case Manager, Portage County Guardianship Service Board.
Michaela Butcher, Case Manager, Portage County Guardianship Service Board.
Norma Thomas, Investigator.
Thank you.
And Lowry, Local Lawyer.
Thank you, Pat. Do any of the public have any comments at this time? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to, oh, I'm sorry, no, we're good? Okay. Hearing none, we will move on to item number 3, which is the financial report, which will be presented by Diana.
Thank you, Amy. So we're 3/4 of the way through the current fiscal year, and the budget report reflects where we should be at 75% of the budget. So we're pretty good overall. We're below budget year to date by 5.1%. We're a little over in terms of salary, wages, and benefits because we had more in health benefits than we anticipated. But that's been covered by the things where we haven't spent much money, like legal services. We only spent $512 out of $10,000. So there are other areas where that will offset. Everything else is pretty much within the 75% range. We've collected almost all of our income. In terms of probate administrative fees, we've collected $6,900 out of the $10,000 that we had budgeted, so we've been doing really well in that regard. JFS, we've collected for this year $20,000 out of the $40,000. The $9,000 that we collected earlier was actually billed last year, but then received after the start of this fiscal year. So we still have another $20,000 that we'll be able to bill JFS, and we've gotten 100% of the funding from MHRB, Portage DD, and the probate. So overall, our budget is within its designated parameters year to date, and I believe that we'll end the year without having any deficits.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
Yes, no?
No questions on 25.
All right, thank you very much. Then if I could please have a motion to approve the budget reports, that would be great.
So moved.
And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. I'm in favor, so we will approve the budget report. Thank you.
Okay, so next we're going to look at the draft budget for 2026. I did this last year, a preliminary draft budget, just to kind of set the stage for our discussion, which is really going to start in earnest at our next meeting in November to try and finalize it, because we don't have any numbers from the county with respect to whether health benefits are going to increase, workers' comp's going to increase. So if those numbers go up, that's going to definitely impact how much income we need to have. So I've been told not to expect a COLA increase for 2026. And after talking with Jackie Petty on how to approach our projections, she said just keep everything the way it was for this year for the time being, because they're hoping and expecting there won't be any increases in healthcare or workers' comp, but until we get to November, we probably won't know for sure. So That's why those numbers are what they are. I'm happy to entertain any questions. I did lower some numbers where our usage didn't seem to go as high as we had budgeted, for instance, in mileage and gasoline reimbursements. 9,000 appears to be more in line rather than the 15,000 that I had budgeted for the year, so I did drop that number 40%, and same with some of the other categories. Happy to entertain any discussions about what we did on these projections.
Well, I'll just start out and be quite honest. I mean, typically, we never give an automatic 10% to every contract across the board. And we hadn't anticipated this at all. My expectation was, moving forward, we'd get the guardianship board set up. A lot of people needed guardianship in Portage County because we didn't have those services. And before Judge Smith arrived, it really wasn't up and functioning. But, we're serving quite a few individuals now across different needs. And I don't see that in terms of the board's needs, that it would be a 10% increase in services rendered. And quite frankly, we're not going to be able to afford that either. Our budgets are very tight. We're anticipating cuts from the feds. Medicaid is, under fire, as you know, and we're looking at how can we keep our agencies going with critical services in terms of cuts or deficits there. We don't manage Medicaid, but of course it's a big part of their portfolio to serve clients. So, and I believe our board last year had said we were not going to continue to increase at the same rate. So I would just say right now, 10% is not even, wouldn't be considered or approved by my board, given where the condition our budget's in also. So I'd like to know a little bit else you mentioned healthcare costs might go up. I don't know if they would, what that would be, but just how you calculate it would be helpful to understand.
It's not something we calculate, John, because our staff are county employees. Whatever healthcare plan the county adopts is what we end up participating in. So I know that Jackie Petty, who's the budget person for the county, had told me that they're hoping that their current healthcare insurance provider isn't going to increase the premiums for the county. But at this point in time, the county did not know that. So as an agency of the county, I don't have any control over that. I just have to plug in the numbers that the county tells me it's going to cost us to cover our employees. So 2 of our employees take those health care benefits. I'm under the plan that I had through the Arizona State Retirement System, so I don't pull benefits from that plan, which is a savings to the agency. But again, with respect to what the health care benefits are going to cost us for 2026, I'll just have to take whatever numbers the county gives me, which I hope I'll have by our November meeting.
I can just reiterate kind of what John said on behalf of Portage County ED. Our costs have increased in our agency, and we are possibly looking at budget cuts across the state and federal government. So I highly doubt that they'll approve a 10% increase as well. I will take it back to them, but I highly doubt it.
And again, in presenting this preliminary draft budget at this meeting, I wasn't expecting that you take it back for approval now. I was just putting numbers out there to tell you at this moment in time, this is the information that I have. If our projected income is cut back to the same levels as 2025, then we'll have to make adjustments in our expenses. But again, that's a board decision. I'm just putting numbers out there to get the discussion started. I don't sometimes think it's beneficial. I mean, it's fine to talk about it within your own administrative staff, like John, you and George DeBoer, and and Candy, you know, you with John Vanetti and stuff. But, you know, to take it to your boards right now, I think would be premature and perhaps set the stage for something that, you know, may not be accurate because, you know, we'll refine this more in November and still have plenty of time to take it to your boards for approval and discussion. So that would be my suggestion.
Okay.
Well, my suggestion would also be, I mean, if you want to project have higher costs, I understand, but, well, two things. One, you know, you are a county agency, and I would recommend seeking out, you know, county funding. We don't have any control over your health care, but if you project that you're going to have a higher need for 2026, you can do that, but I would definitely take the 10% increase off of 2026, at least for the Mental Health and Recovery Board.
Sure,
I
John.
mean,
I will say that the county has already announced to its agency heads that it's in a hiring freeze. It's not approving any current hiring right now. As I've mentioned, they've already stated that it's likely to not have a COLA increase for next year. So the budget, the county is already restricting its access to funds for its various agencies. So I can't go to the county and ask them for money. I sent an email to the county, which I shared with everybody 2 weeks ago, asking for time on the board's agenda to talk about our current caseloads, our current staffing, our current needs, and I've not been given an opportunity to present to the Board of Commissioners. They haven't gotten back to me on that email, so I think that kind of sends a message too.
So I think, you know, as a board, what we need to be thinking about in the next couple months is if we cannot rely on additional funding from DD or MH, we are going to be in a deficit for next year. And if we're in a well, we're gonna be close.
Right.
I mean, you're at 275 and your expenses are 291 projected. So, I mean, we're gonna be in a $20,000, 15 something like that, $1,000 deficit. So we have to figure out where we can cut. There is not, that from what I see on the proposed budget, there's not 15 grand we can cut. So we have to figure out as a board what our options are. I know from attending the state GSB meetings that funding for GSBs across the state primarily comes from DD and MH. There aren't other funding sources out there for these types of boards. They are funded, and the BOC. But we know BOC is probably not giving us any money this year based on the email that Diana shared with us. So knowing what the two funding sources primarily are, if they're not going to agree to contribute anymore, then as a board we have to figure out where else we can get money. I know I've done my research with other boards and I see that there are, it's not like there's grants we can go out and get. We've had this discussion with other GSBs, they don't exist. They're not out there. So if we can't get any additional funding, we have to have a very honest discussion with ourselves on where do we go from here. Because it's going to be very hard for us to continue to function if we don't get additional funding and we can't service the clientele that we need to service. So I'm open to any suggestions anybody might have. It doesn't have to be today. It could be, you know, if we're thinking about this over the next couple months. But I think that's what we need to be thinking is this budget that Diana has presented is pretty lean. There's not a lot of wiggle room in this budget. So I don't know where we go from here. I mean, if there was a COLA involved, we'd be even in a different situation. And I'm not super comfortable with the fact that our staff isn't getting raises because, you know, I think that they deserve it. I understand that's not something we have control over, but I think that as a board, we need to be thinking about, you know, what other options do we have? You know, as the probate court representative of this board, I will clearly have a discussion with the probate court to see if there's any additional funding sources we can get from them, because I feel like I owe that to our board. And I would ask that you both still have that discussion at some point with your board, even though you know what your board told you last year. Our circumstances are what they are. And this board won't function without the support of DD, MH, and probate court. So I will take it as my responsibility to have that conversation with probate court to see if there's any additional resources. And I would expect that you guys would have that discussion as well at some point. Doesn't have to be, like Diana said, right now, but I think by the time we present this budget again in November, we'll have to do our due diligence and have that conversation with our boards.
Yeah, if I can just chime in too, I can do a projected draft budget that keeps the revenue sources at the levels that they were for 2025 and show you where I would make the cuts to make the budget balance for 2026, and then the board can just decide, yeah, we want those cuts and we don't want to increase any funding, and then that's what we'll have to do. So
I think that would be
I
helpful
will,
if you could
I will do that and email out an alternative 2026 budget that contemplates keeping the funding amounts equal to where they are now,
Okay,
at the 275.
okay, and I think
I have
that,
another question. So the $30,000 increase represents solely the healthcare costs going up. Is that correct?
Yeah.
and just a little bit of the cell phone cost.
Right, the cell phones were under budgeted, I'm not quite sure why. And then the health benefits had an increase that was above what we had projected. I also need to get together with the court's fiscal officer to talk about some adjustments, because when the budget was approved, like for salaries and wages, there was an adjustment, Kaylee, where it dropped it from the 179 down to a lower number, and I don't know why they did that. I've kept it at the 179 on this sheet because it really skews it when you take in that dropped number, but that wasn't something that I did, so I think that that's just a correction within the county's, accounting system.
Yep.
So at any rate, you and I will sit down and talk about all of the figures under staff salary, wages, and benefits before I do this revised budget, to make sure that we've got those numbers in a fairly reliable range before we commit to this.
And then also, I did want to ask, so why wouldn't JFS increase at all?
JFS is budgeted in terms of the projected referrals that we get from them, that we bill at $5,000 per referral. I can't project on getting referrals that aren't realistic for us to receive that JFS would cover. So their contribution is based on a case referral basis. That's the way they required us to set it up, so that if they got an audit, they felt they could justify the specifics as to why they gave us money in these increments.
And they pay us $5,000 per
For
report,
case
correct?
referral, correct, right.
So we've had.
And then,
And most
Okay.
of our cases come from mental health anyway, John.
Right,
and
and then
nursing
one
homes,
other-
and nursing homes, which we'll stop doing, but I'll get to that in a minute.
And then the other question I have is, and I don't understand why the commissioners won't contribute anything to this, because not everyone has serious mental illness who's on guardianship. I know there's a major portion of clients with serious mental illness, but is it possible for probate court to include something in their budget through the commissioners that would help with the increased needs?
Well, that is definitely a discussion I'm gonna have with the judge as part of my role representing that third branch of funding, is I will absolutely have a conversation with the judge about whether we can do that for next year.
I know some of the things that the probate court has considered part of its contribution is the in-kind contributions that it gives to PCGSB, including the accounting services, the IT services, the parking services, and things of that nature. So just like the Board of Commissioners felt like by taking over office space contribution from Neighborhood Development Services, that was its contribution for 2025, that they were able to step up and help with our office space because we were losing that when NDS needed to take its offices back. John, I can't make the board, provide us money, and like I said, I've asked to have time to talk with the board so I could at least raise the topic. I mean, certainly you and John Benetti, and Judge Smith can contact the commissioners and explain to them, you know, how you would like to see them. But I mean, I can't do that. You know, I don't hold any particular leverage over the Board of Commissioners. I can't even get them to put me on the agenda, so that's just the reality of it.
Well, and so Amy, as you said, maybe we could have, if you could initiate discussions with Judge Smith, we can explore that also. And I appreciate having this discussion. We know this is a vital service. We're committed to it. We've shown that over the past couple of years, and the funding we brought forward to. But just I mean, we have to be honest that we don't have enough funding for anything. There's all of our agencies have programs that they would like increases in. We're not even able to fund them, everything that they should be getting. There's clients that are on waiting lists. We have a large crisis center that's opening up, and that's going to be taking a lot of our levy dollars. The state has discontinued a whole series of grants that we depended on. They were called regional collaboration grants, and we were receiving those for crisis services, for kids, for adults. A lot of different small initiatives, in terms of housing and things like that. All that stuff is being cut back. So we just have to be very mindful. Unfortunately, we have a system where things aren't, fully funded. And I would like to see the state and the feds do a lot more. Right now, that doesn't seem like it's happening. We're still worried about Medicaid. We're still worried about SAMHSA grants that are being cut back and things like that. So I appreciate this conversation. It's a very difficult funding, environment we live in right now.
I appreciate that, John. I'm glad you mentioned the expansion of the crisis unit, because as you expand the crisis unit and get more beds and are able to serve more people, it's realistic to expect that Coleman is going to be reaching out to us to request guardianship services for a lot of these people. And, I'm not quite sure how we're going to deal with that if you increase funding and services on one hand, knowing that you're going to increase the clientele who are in need of services and also will be in need of guardianship services, how you can also contemplate that you're going to have to increase some funding on the guardianship side to take care of those additional people that are going to come into the system because you're expanding your capacity. So, that's just a reality.
Believe me, not everyone who needs crisis services needs a guardian. And by getting, solid crisis services to people immediately, we can get them stabilized, and more likely they wouldn't need a guardianship, hopefully. So I don't think you can automatically say there's going to be, an upshot from the crisis center. Hopefully we want to get people stabilized and get them connected to services. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to need a guardian.
I appreciate that perspective, and I wish that were the case. I know for a fact that I get referrals from Coleman because Coleman feels like they can't manage the client, and so they expect a guardian to come in and help them to manage the client. I've got 2 referrals right now that we're sitting on, both of which are in Coleman care, and Coleman insists that they're going to need guardians because they don't want to pursue other potential options like putting them on assisted outpatient treatment, where maybe if they had the court's involvement and the court's oversight, a guardian wouldn't be necessary because the court's making sure they take their meds and stay in their housing and deal with all these other issues. So as an agency for guardianship, I deal with the reality that Coleman serves me, which is they present us with referral applications when they have difficult clients that they don't want to pursue other options with, like assisted outpatient treatment, and instead they think that putting a guardian in place will make life easier.
Well, it might make it easier for Coleman, but we're all working together with Coleman to help them increase the assisted outpatient treatment commitments for people they serve also. So again, I would say AOT is probably an option much sooner than guardianship. Guardianship is way down the line for people that are, have really, severe limitations due to their illness. So, and we'll have to see how it goes. But again, I appreciate the conversation, but I think the important thing is to not put 10% on there when we haven't even had a discussion about it. If you want to have a 10% projected budget increase, then that's fine. But I would vote to accept the draft 26 budget as is right now today.
I understand, and that's why I'll go ahead and prepare an alternative budget for consideration that keeps the funding levels the same, and then show you where cuts would have to be made to make that budget balance, and then we can discuss that. We'll discuss both options at the next meeting.
Sounds
And
great.
John, with respect to the AOT issue, perhaps going forward, when I have these discussions with Coleman as to whether a guardianship's really necessary, I'll include Tara so she can weigh in
Yeah.
on the benefit of AOT.
Absolutely, Diana. And I didn't realize that wasn't happening, but and any discussions with Coleman around treatment plan, I think it would be helpful to have Tara in there, and you'll find her an ally for the client's needs and exploring all the options and things like that.
Yes, I agree, she's been very helpful. Thank you, we'll do that going forward.
Can I ask a question?
And I really don't want to belabor the point. I mean, obviously the conversation has been going on. Where did the flat 10% increase come from?
It wasn't a flat 10%.
Okay.
It was a
That's
discussion. It was a discussion that we have a little committee that gets together. It's a GSB planning committee that consists of Amy and Judge Smith. Heather, Tammy sits in on it to just kind of hash things out in terms of issues that we're dealing with and sort of set the stage for things that I may need to bring up at the next board meeting. And when we were talking about this preliminary draft budget, and I was mentioning, what my conversations with the county had been so far, it was suggested at that time that I had put the $110,000 on it. That didn't come from me, that came from the discussion that we had. And I had concerns about it because of what I had been told by Mental Health and Recovery Board at the last meetings and Port HDD with respect to keeping a cap on the 100,000. But this was the direction that I was directed to pursue for this discussion today, and so that's what I've done. I'm kind of in the middle.
So I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so we will wait for the draft of the preliminary budget before we take a vote on that. I'm
That
going
sounds
to
good.
move on to.
John wants
to say
Oh, sorry, John.
I have one more question. So, and I mentioned this earlier, and probably Diana's going to get into her report, but I'd be very interested to see what the actual numbers reflect. If, because I would think we're starting to reach a plateau of taking care of unserved people at this point, as we enter this new year, our third year.
So I can segue into that now, John.
Okay.
So if you look at the last page of the budget report, the operations overview, we currently have 69 active guardianships. So we've been operating for about 27 months now. 27 months ago, we didn't have any cases. Now we've got 69 cases. We operate very fiscally conservatively. We've got 2 case managers and myself. We hardly spend any money for administrative costs. We don't have any secretaries or any administrative assistants. All the administrative stuff and reports and statistics, I do myself. So, we don't have the support staff that some agencies do, and in fact that some GSBs have. So we operate very frugally managing these 69 active guardianship cases. We have 3 pending guardianship hearings. So if we're appointed as guardian in those 3 cases, that'll take us to 72 active guardianships. We have 7 pending referrals. These are referrals that I've received, referral applications and statements of expert evaluations that I am sitting on and cannot file guardianship applications on. That includes 2 from Coleman and 5 from nursing homes. It includes 2 men, 5 women. 3 of them have diagnosis of mental health issues. 3 have dementia issues, and 1 has traumatic brain injury and dementia diagnosis. Of those referrals, like I said, 2 come from Coleman, 5 come from nursing homes. All are over age 60 except for 1. So we are already at the state where I have 7 pending referrals. I have 6 existing guardianships where the ward's on hospice care. So we don't know at what point they may no longer be needing guardianship services. But as it is right now, I've got 7 referrals I cannot file applications on because of the cap that the board's put on it and the fact that our staff resources are limited. So we're already at that point, that's where we are. With respect to the Coleman clients, of the 2 referrals, I'm not sure one of them really needs a guardian, and that's part of the discussion that I've been having with Coleman, and I will bring Tara into that. The other referral I just got last night, so we really haven't had a chance to look into it, although the person is under age 60, and he lives in the community and has a bunch of issues, but APS can't be involved because he's not over age 60. So that's where we are.
And in respect to the nursing home referrals, what are the 3 you mentioned are mental health issues? What are mental health issues?
Mental health diagnosis. So schizophrenia or, bipolar or some other mental health diagnosis.
Okay, so severe mental illness.
Yeah, the mental illness is part of the diagnosis that contributes to their impairment. Sometimes it's a mental illness and dementia, or a mental illness and developmental disabilities. We have a couple of clients that have developmental disabilities, but they also have mental illness diagnoses as well, so they receive treatment for both.
Okay, and I would assume, of course, that dementia is not included in mental illness.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So that's where we are right now. Of all the public guardianships, there's 91 total public guardianships when we started out. Before we had any appointments, there were only like 40 or 41 public guardianships. So the number of public guardianships has increased exponentially because the caseload has increased. So we currently have almost 76% of all the public guardianship cases. And so that's kind of where we are. In terms of the referral sources for our active and pending cases, you see that listed there as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions about these diagnoses, but that's where we currently stand.
So I thought we were going to, and maybe my interpretation is wrong, continue to take DD and mental health referrals.
We are,
Since
Candy.
we were nurse.
We are,
Okay.
Candy. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm prioritizing those anyway. I took one hospital referral last week that I wasn't going to file on, but I got an emergency application from them. This is a person that lives in the community. It was going to be dangerous for them to return to their home. They already have some severe behavioral issues and have a mental illness diagnosis in addition to dementia. So I agreed to do the filing because of those conditions, and it's pending. We're still trying to figure out a way to get them out of the hospital and into a care facility, but with all of our people that have severe behavioral issues, it's difficult to find a nursing home that's going to take them. But so yeah, we're going to stretch our caseloads when we have, an exigent case come in from Coleman, an exigent case come in from Portage DD, because those are our priorities.
I want to jump in on that,
Yeah.
Diana. And I just want to revisit the issue of numbers. So, as a board, we decided that it was going to be capped at 30 per each
Right.
worker, and then 10 for you,
Right.
because you're doing all the administrative stuff, all the reporting, and that's where, we wanted your focus to be. So we're at that 70 right now. And I think we have to be very conscious of that. There's a reason why we came up with that number, right? We don't want our caseworkers overworked.
And because of what the other GSBs do.
And what
The
the-
other GSBs
correct.
range from 20 to 40 per
Correct.
caseworker,
But-
so we're in the middle of that.
We are, but the ones that have 40
Right.
are the larger,
Right,
the larger counties that have support staff.
have more
And
administrative
we don't have
services.
that.
Right.
So our staff are doing everything, whereas we're in those counties, those support staff, those case
Franklin and
managers,
Delaware.
Franklin, Delaware, they have
More
support
resources.
staff and they have more resources than we do. So the 30-30-10 needs to stay where that number's at, in my opinion. And at some point, Candy, to your question, if we continue to get referrals from our two larger funding sources, they might have to be in a holding pattern until we can figure out how to get additional resources to get additional staff to service them. That's the problem I think that we're facing, and that's the reality right now, is we just don't have enough staff to service additional wards. Like, we're just not set up for that. And I know Diana would take 100 if we let her, right? But we can't let her, because she's going to get burned out, and then, or Stephanie or Michaela are gonna get burned out. I've done that work, it's exhausting work, right? There is joy in it, but there's more exhausting aspects to it than there is joy.
It's stressful.
And it's completely stressful. You're taking calls at 2 a.m, right? And you're constantly on call for managing whatever happens. And let's be honest, GSB is getting the most difficult wards, right? We're not getting easy wards. And so I think we need to be very conscious that those numbers need to stay where they're at so that our staff is not overworked and that we can continue to have the great staff that we have. But until we figure out as a board how to secure additional funding to be able to get additional staff, our numbers have to be at 70. I think that's just the reality. And unfortunately, we might go back to a period where, like Norma had a waiting list. We're gonna have a waiting list.
We've got a
We have a waiting list, right? And if they're in the nursing home and they're safe, I don't care if they can't get on Medicaid or they need somebody to make medical decisions. Like, the nursing home's gonna have to figure it out for the interim, right? Unfortunately. And that's what happened when, correct me if I'm wrong, Norma, but that's what happened, right? They would stay in a holding pattern for months until you found somebody that would step up, right?
Now, we are still doing things where if I get a referral and that referral has somebody who needs a guardian of a person and a state, then I'm referring those to the probate court and they'll find an attorney to take that case. So there have been a couple of those cases that I've received in the past 2 or 3 months where, because they had the resources to support it, we didn't have to take the case and I could refer to the probate court, and then they appointed an attorney to file the guardianship paperwork. So, we deflect wherever we can. We help family members to file guardianship paperwork if they can be talked into it whenever we can. It's just that there are some times where we literally are the guardian of last resort, and those were the ones that are on the pending list right now.
Does anybody have any more comments or questions about the numbers?
Amy, one more question. Where are we with charging a service fee to the nursing homes when we do their guardianships?
I'm not sure he was here when Mike
Yeah.
Finallo came.
Correct, right, you wanna go ahead and give a quick
Sure.
rendition? We did talk about that at a couple board meetings ago.
Yeah, and you would be able to see that from the minutes and from the video of that meeting, John, but we had Mike Finallo, who was the administrator for Woodlands Nursing Home. He, matter of fact, just left Woodlands this week and took another job. But he came and talked about how difficult it is for the nursing homes to be able to pay that kind of referral fee, because most of these referrals are people that are on Medicaid, and they get oftentimes less than $1,000 a month from Medicaid as part of the residency fee. So they're not even at break even for some of these folks, and from a corporate administration standpoint, they're all nursing homes that are managed by larger corporate entities. They can't get authorization to pay those referral fees.
So we've
And
prioritized
then-
those, John, remember, nursing homes
What's
are we've prioritized those referrals, right? So, and Diane and I have had multiple conversations about this, making sure that MH and DD referrals
Right.
are at the top,
Right.
and then nursing home
Right.
referrals will be at the bottom. So right now, as you can see, we've got 5 nursing home referrals that are in the holding pattern. Because
Right.
we'll obviously
Just-
have to get to the 2 Coleman first, when a slot
Right.
opens up.
Just looking for loose change here.
Yeah.
You never know where you find it.
And no other
And then-
GSB collects referral fees from nursing homes. Franklin's the only one that collects a referral fee from hospitals, but they have large hospitals that want to get patients out of bed so they can collect more money, so they're willing to enter into an agreement. We really don't have that. We get very few direct referrals from hospitals. So.
Okay, then one other question is, if there's an estate and a guardianship is being instituted, is it possible to, charge that to the estate or no?
We've been doing that, John. You'll see on the budget report
Okay,
for
just
this
want to make
year.
sure.
Yeah, I've already collected $6,900 so far this year out of $10,000 budgeted from estates. So
Okay.
for those
Great.
estates that we have been submitting invoices that have been getting approved by the probate court, and then the estate attorneys have been paying us those fees. So I've projected collecting $10,000 in estate administration fees this year, and right now we're at $6,900.
Okay, thank you.
So that's pretty much it on the operations overview. Happy to discuss any other issues or questions that you have concerning that or other matters.
Anybody else have any comments they want to make before we move to adjourn? Okay, hearing none, can I please get a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Thank you. A second, please.
Second?
Thank you. I am in favor. We will adjourn at 10:42.
Thanks for